Hey everyone, welcome to today's deep dive. And we're going to be talking about Denmark today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and specifically how they're working to protect their wildlife.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, we've got some pretty fascinating sources to look at.
Okay.
One is this Danish Wikipedia article about the EU Habitats Directive and this thing called Annex 4.
Okay.
And then we've also got this web page that kind of breaks down what Appendix 4 species means like in practice.
Gotcha.
So yeah, get ready, because we're going to be learning about some cool creatures today.
Awesome. I'm excited.
And why Denmark is like going above and beyond to keep them safe.
Yeah. It is fascinating how this small country is taking such a strong stance, on conservation.
Right.
We're talking about a European-wide rulebook here.
Yeah.
The EU Habitats Directive.
Yeah.
And Annex 4 is like this list of species that need extra care.
Right.
And Denmark has taken this and woven it into their own national law.
Wow.
Which you can learn all about on that Appendix 4 species webpage.
Okay.
It shows a real dedication to protecting biodiversity.
Yeah. So we're talking about 39 animal species in Denmark that are on this VIP list.
Yeah.
Bats, otters, even wolves.
Wow.
It's like a who's who of the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's not just the charismatic megafauna,
Right.
There are insects and amphibians on the list too.
Interesting.
Like the great crested newt.
Oh, cool.
And the greenhawker dragonfly.
What strikes me is the recognition that even a species that might be common in one area, like the great crested newt,
Right.
could be vulnerable elsewhere in Europe.
Oh, that's interesting.
So protecting them in Denmark contributes to the overall health of the species
Right.
across a wider range. It's a connected approach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the greenhawker dragonfly.
Yeah.
This stunning dragonfly with its emerald green body and bright yellow stripes,
I can picture it.
zipping over ponds and wetlands.
Beautiful.
They need very specific habitats to survive.
Sure.
I can definitely see why protecting their breeding and resting areas is so crucial.
Yeah.
I'm already getting a sense of how delicate the balance is.
The webpage really highlights how protecting these Annex 4 species isn't just about avoiding direct harm.
Right.
It's also about ensuring their habitats remain suitable.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the legal side of things.
Okay.
Did you know it's actually illegal to kill, capture, or even disturb them in any way that could harm them?
Wow. So there are real consequences for interfering with these species.
Yeah.
And it's not just about intentional actions, right?
Yeah.
If you're a landowner,
Mm-hmm.
and you have, say, a pond on your property where some of these protected species are living, you can't just go ahead and drain it without considering them.
You'd be in violation of the law.
Wow.
It's about understanding the impact our actions can have,
Great.
even if they seem unrelated at first.
Yeah.
What's great is that Denmark has this awesome resource called arter.dk,
Okay.
where you can actually look up records of where these Annex 4C species have been spotted.
So if you're a landowner, you could imagine how helpful this is. It's like having a wildlife map in your fingertips.
Yeah.
Helping you understand what's living on your property and what you need to do to protect it.
For sure.
Talk about taking responsibility.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic example of transparency and how information empowers people to make responsible choices.
Yeah.
But even if you're not a landowner, you're still part of this shared responsibility.
Right.
It's not just about following rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing the value of these creatures and wanting to ensure their survival.
And speaking of shared responsibility, Denmark takes it a step further with bird protection.
Oh, really?
It's fascinating how even common birds have legal safeguarding.
Wow.
No disturbing nests or collecting eggs.
Interesting.
Denmark is serious about avian appreciation.
It makes perfect sense when you consider the vital role birds play
Right.
in pollination, seed dispersal, and pest control.
Yeah.
Protecting them contributes to the health and resilience of the whole ecosystem.
It really makes you think about how interconnected everything is, like a giant puzzle where each species has its own important place.
Precisely. Removing one piece can have unforeseen consequences for the entire picture.
Right.
And that's why conservation efforts like Denmark's are so crucial.
We've already learned so much about Denmark's approach to protecting its wildlife.
It's pretty impressive.
But are these efforts actually making a difference on the ground?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I'm curious to know how they translate these rules into real-world action.
Me too.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the practicalities of conservation and explore some of the success stories and challenges facing these amazing creatures. Welcome back to our deep dive into Denmark's protected species.
Okay.
In part 1, we explored the legal framework that protects these fascinating creatures.
Right.
Now, I'm kind of curious about how these rules translate into real-world action.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to have laws, But actually making them work on the ground
Yeah.
must be a whole other challenge.
You're absolutely right. And the Appendix 4 species webpage
Yeah.
highlights a crucial aspect of that challenge. Understanding the specific needs of each species.
Okay.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
A wolf, for instance,
Yeah.
needs a very different habitat from a dragonfly.
That's a great point. So how does Denmark approach conservation efforts for such diverse species?
A lot of it involves identifying and protecting critical habitats.
Okay.
For example, for bats,
Yeah.
that might mean preserving old trees with suitable roosting cavities
Right.
or creating artificial bat houses.
Okay.
For aquatic species like the great crested newt,
Mm-hmm.
it could involve restoring degraded ponds or making sure watercourses remain connected.
So it's about looking beyond just the individual animal
Yeah.
and considering the entire ecosystem they rely on.
Precisely. And that requires a collaborative effort
Like that-
between scientists, landowners, and policymakers.
Right.
The Appendix 4 species webpage emphasizes the crucial role landowners play in conservation.
Mm-hmm.
After all, they're often the ones directly managing the habitats these species depend on.
Denmark's doing a lot to protect these species. But isn't habitat loss still a huge problem,
Yeah, definitely.
especially with a growing population and increasing development?
Right.
How are they balancing those competing needs?
It's a constant challenge, no doubt. But Denmark has implemented some innovative initiatives
Okay.
to support landowners in their conservation efforts.
Okay.
They provide guidance on habitat management,
Hmm.
offer financial incentives for conservation-friendly practices,
Mm.
and facilitate knowledge sharing between experts and landowners.
It sounds like a true team effort with everyone working together to protect these species.
Absolutely.
Are there any specific success stories that show these efforts are actually making a difference?
Absolutely. The otter, once on the brink of extinction in Denmark,
Oh, wow.
has made a remarkable comeback
Really?
thanks to concerted conservation efforts.
That's awesome.
It's a real testament to what can be achieved when people work together towards a common goal.
While the otter's comeback is encouraging, are there concerns about its long-term sustainability?
Especially with ongoing development pressures.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Habitat loss and fragmentation remain significant threats,
Mhm.
especially as Denmark's population grows and development pressures increase.
Right.
Add to that the looming challenge of climate change,
Oh, yeah.
altering habitats and potentially disrupting delicate ecological balances.
Right.
And you can see the complexity of the situation.
So it's an ongoing battle requiring constant adaptation and innovation.
Yeah.
Are there any particularly creative strategies Denmark is using to address these challenges?
There are some fascinating approaches being employed.
Okay.
One that stands out is the use of wildlife corridors,
What's that?
essentially strips of habitat connecting fragmented areas.
Oh, interesting.
These corridors allow animals to move more freely,
Okay.
increasing genetic diversity and reducing the risk of isolation.
That's a really clever idea.
Yeah.
It's like building bridges for wildlife to navigate our increasingly human-dominated landscape.
I imagine these corridors benefit other species besides the ones they're specifically designed for.
You're absolutely right. They create a ripple effect, enhancing biodiversity across the landscape.
Cool.
It's a powerful reminder that everything in nature is connected.
Yeah.
Protecting one species often has positive consequences for others.
Speaking of interconnectedness,
Hmm.
are there other innovative approaches being used in Denmark?
Denmark is also a pioneer in implementing citizen science initiatives,
Okay.
where members of the public participate in data collection and monitoring efforts.
Interesting.
This helps scientists gather valuable information about species distribution and abundance,
Okay.
which in turn informs conservation strategies.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It not only provides valuable data,
Yeah.
but also engages the community and fosters a sense of shared responsibility for protecting these species.
Right.
It's a win-win situation.
It is. And it also helps raise awareness and appreciation for the incredible biodiversity that Denmark has to offer.
Yeah.
As they say, we protect what we love. And we love what we know.
Yeah.
So by learning about these fascinating creatures,
Mm-hmm.
we're more likely to become advocates for their protection.
It sounds like Denmark is really taking a comprehensive approach to conservation, combining legal frameworks, practical strategies, and community engagement.
Yeah.
But we've been focusing primarily on the ecological aspects.
Right.
I'm curious about the cultural and historical significance of these protected species in Denmark.
Okay.
How do they fit into the nation's identity and storytelling?
Interesting question.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the rich tapestry of folklore, art, and traditions surrounding these cherished creatures. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Denmark's protected species. We've covered the legal framework, the practical conservation efforts, and now I'm really intrigued to explore the cultural and historical significance of these creatures. It's amazing how wildlife is often woven into the fabric of a nation's identity and storytelling.
It's true. Our sources focused on the scientific and legal aspects of protection, but these species also hold a special place in Danish culture and history. They've inspired folklore art and even shaped how people interact with the natural world.
So we're going beyond the textbooks and delving into the realm of storytelling and tradition. What kind of cultural connections can we find with these protected species in Denmark?
Well, let's start with the otter. This playful, semi-aquatic mammal has long been associated with both positive and negative symbolism in Danish folklore. In some tales, otters were seen as mischievous tricksters, capable of shape-shifting and even stealing souls.
That's a bit spooky. It's interesting how these creatures often inhabit a liminal space in folklore, blurring the lines between the natural and supernatural.
Exactly. And while those trickster tales might paint otters in a less than favorable light, they also highlight their intelligence and adaptability traits that have undoubtedly contributed to their survival. On the other hand, otters were also sometimes seen as symbols of good luck and prosperity, particularly for fishermen.
That makes sense. Fishermen might have seen them as competitors for fish, but also as indicators of a healthy ecosystem. It's a complex relationship.
Precisely. And this duality is reflected in traditional Danish art and literature, where otters are depicted in various ways, from cunning tricksters to graceful swimmers.
It seems like those cultural narratives often mirror the ecological roles these creatures play in the real world.
That's a great observation. This interconnectedness between culture and nature is a recurring theme we see across many of Denmark's protected species. Take bats, for example, those mysterious creatures of the night. They've long been associated with both fear and fascination.
Definitely, bats often get a bad rap in popular culture because of their association with vampires and Halloween. Yeah. But they're also incredibly fascinating creatures with their unique ability to echolocate and fly.
Exactly. And in Danish folklore, bats were sometimes seen as messengers between the worlds, flitting between the realm of living and the dead. They were also associated with wisdom and secret knowledge, perhaps due to their nocturnal habits and elusive nature.
It's fascinating how these cultural beliefs often stem from a mixture of observation and imagination.
Indeed. And while some of those beliefs might seem superstitious to modern sensibilities, they remind us of the deep connection humans have felt with the natural world throughout history, a connection that's worth preserving.
Absolutely. Understanding the cultural significance of these creatures enhances our appreciation for their ecological importance and inspires us to become better stewards of their habitats.
Precisely. It adds another layer of meaning to our conservation efforts, reminding us that protecting these species isn't just about preserving biodiversity, but also safeguarding a part of our shared cultural heritage.
It's a powerful reminder that nature isn't something separate from us, but something we're intrinsically connected to, both ecologically and culturally.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive. We've explored the legal protections, the practical conservation efforts, and the cultural significance of Denmark's protected species.
It's been an incredible journey filled with fascinating insights and inspiring examples of how humans and wildlife can coexist.
And as we conclude, we leave you with this final thought. Take a moment to appreciate the incredible diversity of life that surrounds you, not just in Denmark, but wherever you are in the world.
Remember that every creature from the smallest insect to the largest mammal plays a vital role in the intricate web of life.
And by understanding, respecting, and protecting those species, we're not just safeguarding nature, but also enriching our own lives and ensuring a healthier planet for future generations.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep wondering.